friends. I'm Mary Burt-Godwin, and I'm excited for our next guest. I've known her since I was in grade school, and we've come into each other's lives in different ways over the last, I don't know, many years. And now she is the president of Eris Talent Agency, and she is zooming in to talk about the actors' strike and what is going on in Los Angeles and Hollywood. Welcome to America Trends, Tina Randolph Contogenis. Good to see you, friend.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, so good to see you.
Good to see your face.
I know. Well, we see each other on Facebook and social media, I think, right?
Yeah.
And then, so we went to grade school, high school too, or did you leave? I keep forgetting.
I stayed through 9th grade.
Okay, so we were both at a school here in San Diego for many years together. And then we also reconnected in our 20s, in the 90s, with at Stu Siegel Productions, which is a film and television production company. So we worked together there for a while. And then we were just reconnected through one of our producers, Tommy Sablon. And we asked him to tell us somebody who could talk about the SAG strike. And he said, Tina Contogenis, and here you are. So good to see you.
You too. Thank you for having me.
So I have so many, I just want you to stick around almost the whole show because I have so many topics for you to talk about. But the first one is I do want to talk about what is happening with this SAG actors strike. And, you know, where it's been going on now for a month and a half, I guess, right? Since middle of July. And, you know, where are we at? And I guess, first of all, let's kick off with what are the notable grounds for the strike and what SAG is striking because of?
Well, there's a few things. The residuals are the biggest thing. But, you know, it's such a weird term right now because residuals don't really exist in the streaming world. And so the fight is really against the big streamers like Amazon, Netflix, Disney. So they want a way to get a piece of the pie. Normal network television days, you'd make a lot of your money and, you know, continually every time the show aired. And now it's kind of a one and done.
So let's go, for example, when Friends, you know, first aired, everyone on the show, the stars, but also the small day player actors that had one line or the coffee shop barista all made checks every time that show would air on reruns, right? They would get checks in the mail randomly. So now when, let's say, Gilmore Girls, which is on Netflix and airs ad nauseum all the time, my kids and I watch it frequently, are actors seeing any money from that every time it streams, or are they not seeing anything from that?
I don't know that particular show's deal, but for the most part, like, I can speak to everything that I know, and I have never seen a residual at all ever come through anything Netflix, anything Disney, anything streaming. So you get your payment, and that's it. And the show does really well. You know, normally in year 3, you renegotiate, and then you get even more money. Sometimes that's happening now, but sometimes it's not. But you still only get your one check, and that's it. Yeah. And for, you know, most actors that are, you know, not working as a series regular and are just coming in, yeah, they get paid for one day, but then that's it.
But then that's it. So, and they would normally see even residuals on that one day's performance if it was a, you know, fun episode that repeated a lot. Yeah, so it seems like this industry needs to catch up with the times because everything is going streaming. I mean, not everything, but most everything now goes right to streaming. So it definitely seems like it needs to catch up. And I want to talk about one other point before diving in more to the streaming world and what actors make. The threat of AI seems to be something also that keeps coming up when I'm hearing about that. So what are those? I think I saw a TikTok or a reel where an actor was showing a commercial made with his voice and his lips moving, and he said, I never recorded that. It's all deep fake. And they made a commercial out of me. So how do you think that's a legitimate fear for actors right now?
I think that this fear should be every industry's fear. And I think personally that this is one of the biggest issues in general. As I said, not only for us, it's a big one for the writers. And it's for every industry of being risked of being taken over by AI. So yes, the way that that was offered was right now on the table that if they said, the networks, the AMPTP, that if you are coming in, or the studios, I should say, sorry, studios, that if you are a background performer, they will pay you for one day. And then as soon as that day is over, they will own your image in perpetuity. You will never receive another money. So that's on the table right now. And that was, of course, everyone's like, no. So that was basically saying that we will never need background actors because we could put all those people that are sitting in the background of the coffee shop while the lead actors are talking, we can make them all AI and never have to pay them.
Right.
So even if that were your image, you would never get paid.
Wow. And I mean, that's what I used to do when we used to work together, was background casting. So I know, that a lot of people worked. I mean, it wasn't necessarily sustainable money, but it was a side hustle for a lot of people. It's a way to break in the industry. It's a way to learn.
Yeah.
It's a way to have fun. It's different reasons. People do it for different reasons. But let's say, I was hearing about this, especially for shows that have stadium scenes, or like Ted Lasso, I think was one that was brought up, where they would film one day with all those actors and then just keep reusing those shots forever in perpetuity of stadium seating. They don't need to, and it's CGI too, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing. And the way the existing contracts are that we've all been working with for years, because we are working on an old contract, they do say in perpetuity your likeness. But who would have ever guessed even 10 years ago that your likeness meant they can make it into AI, because that is your likeness, right?
Yeah, definitely that needs to be renegotiated. So you mentioned the writers. I want to talk about did the two industries, the two sectors kind of come together and talk ahead of time? Did you guys know that both unions were going to strike at the same time or similar times? And it seems like a lot of the concerns are the same. So, what's that interworkings like?
Well, I mean, we knew the writers were striking first, and we knew because their contract came up first, it expired first. And so we knew also that they had the same issues as SAG did. And so, and they're fighting the same people. So if they're not giving into the writers, AI, it was a different type of AI, but it was still AI usage, right?
Right.
And the residuals was the same thing. The writers want to get their residuals too, and they're in the same position. There are other things like writers' rooms that are going away. So, both sides knew that they were both going to be fighting the same fight. So yes, they picket together, they banded together, they made sure that, they were fighting as a team. So that is what's going on right now.
And do we think that one negotiation could happen and resolve itself earlier than the other? How are we looking at negotiations right now?
Well, I mean, no one knows exactly what can happen, obviously, but if I were to guess, the writers are actually back at the table having some discussions. They are not productive. They went back in, and as of yesterday, like, everybody was excited. Yay, they're talking. There's going to be some good things that, there's going to be a deal put on the table that was good, but that didn't happen. So I think the writers will solve it first, just because they're further into the talks. But that may not solve everything. So, because there are different issues. So, I don't know how it's going to go, but it's not looking good. But there have been some legislation that has been passed that is protecting against the AI. So the government has stepped in with things like that, with saying like, hey, if you write a TV show and AI writes it, guess what? You can't copyright it and say this belongs to this studio and this is this show.
Oh,
so that was
interesting.
That just happened.
That's great. That's great news, I would think. I want to talk about, the concept that actors make all this money and they're so wealthy, and why are they asking for more money? And that's not really the reality. A small percentage of actors make those big bucks. And then I was reading, I think it's like 12% of SAG-AFTRA members qualify for the union's health plan, which is a minimum of like $26,000 per year. So people are not making a living necessarily as actors. And so this is really affecting actors and crew members and everyone trickling down, right?
I mean, if the number that you said, that's a huge thing. 88% of the actors do not qualify, do not make over $20-something thousand a year acting. So, and those ones that are making above, we have a lot of actors that are in that next range that are making, maybe 100,000 a year. But it's job to job. It's really like piecemealing everything. It's like being a hustler 24/7.
Right.
And then you never get any headway on that. Even if you get on a show, now that's really going to help, because I'm putting, how many hours we worked in the industry.
Yes.
It's 100-hour work weeks, minimum.
Right.
Minimum.
Which is something that they were talking about kind of working towards. Remember, Katherine Heigl came out and talked about hours on a set. Is that changing, or is that part of these talks at all, or not really?
No, they're not fighting that one right now. I mean, right now it's really about the money and sharing in the. and being fair, and it's about AI. I mean, those are the big two hot issues that are going on. There's some other little things, but if these two big hot issues do not get solved, then that's where the problem's going to be. And it's forcing people out of LA. It's forcing crew members, actors, everybody.
Right. I want to talk to you about that and lots more. We got to take a quick break, so stick around. I'm talking with Tina Randolph Contogenis. She is the president of Eris Talent Agency. We're talking about the actors' strike and the writers' strike and all sorts of good stuff. And her daughter was in a big film that just came out, so we're going to talk about her daughter as well right after this quick break. You're watching America Trends. We'll be right back.